I'm Adrienne Hines. I've spent 20 years fighting the insurance companies, corporations, and the legal system.
And I'm Kristen Paris. I'm navigating divorce, digital business, and life on the farm without a map.
Here, we are stripping away the polite conversation. We're talking about the money,
The mess.
and the legal traps trying to ruin your life.
Welcome to season 3 of High Heels and Hay Bales.
Well, Kristen, it is officially the second week in February, which means that my social media feed is really filled with one of two types of people. The first type of person is really posting panic attacks about 1099s arriving, right? And the second type is what I call the refund baller.
I know the refund baller. I used to be one. It's the person who gets that direct deposit beginning of February and then suddenly has a new TV, their exhaust on their car is fixed, they have new equipment and a steak dinner. It's being rich for a week season.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've had my refund baller days as well back in the early days. I think everybody who's ever worked a regular job, knows exactly what that feels like. And I really have to tell you, we got a secret in the legal world, and that is that rich people file in October and poor people file in January. And it's really interesting. I mean, we're here to talk about taxes, how they're different for wealthy people and not wealthy people, and what we can do to maximize our options here, and how do we use it to our best defense, right?
That rich people wait and poor people rush is absolutely true. You know, when you're broke, you are stalking the mailman and the bank account for that direct deposit because you need that 3 grand just to catch up on the electric bill or cover those credit cards that you used for Christmas. It's not a bonus. It's that life raft that a lot of people use in the beginning of the year to reset the rest of the year.
Yeah, and it's complicated, and the reason that we wanted to talk about it is because I think it's important to understand why people get tax refunds. And I think a lot of people treat them like a tax refund is a lottery win, or they treat it like they're this one opportunity to do things in the year that they don't get to do other times of the year. And I don't think that I think people need to understand that this isn't pennies from heaven. This is an interest-free loan that you gave the government. And once you start to understand kind of how that works, maybe you look at your tax refund a little bit different.
Definitely. Like it's essentially I give you or you give me $300 a month all year long. And at the end of the year or next year, I give it all back to you without a penny of interest and you throw a party. Like that's the tax refund. We're conditioned to think of it as a gift from Uncle Sam and really it's just them giving us the money we paid them back. Like it took me a long time to understand that it wasn't free money. It was my money that they took and now I have to get some of it back.
Yeah, and it's interesting as a bankruptcy lawyer because we talk about tax refunds a lot, and I have to explain the tax refund exactly in this way, right? People are like, why would I have to give my tax refund up if I file for bankruptcy? And the answer is because, here we are in February already. We've already paid a month. We've already paid 1/12 of the tax refund that we're going to get next year, if that's how you do it, right? So already in January, we're giving money. In February, we're giving money. In March, we're giving money. On and on and on and on and on. If we're giving that money every single month, and then we're waiting all the way until January 30th, February 1st, anytime after that to ask for it back. And we do get it back without taxes, but what are we doing with it, and how can we make it work for us even better? Like, those are some things I want to explore here. But let's first start talking about kind of all of the different ways that people are going to panic over the holiday or over this time of year, right? We've got different types of taxes. And so let's talk about the different types of taxes. I wanna talk about the gig economy like you and I are in. It's one thing to get a W-2, right? And we're talking a little bit about that. That means somebody else is taking that money out of your paycheck for you and paying it. So that's one issue, right? We need those people to know what to do with their money and how to manage it better. And then we have, the other side, which is "Oh boy, I owe taxes, and I didn't even know how this happened." So I want to hear a little bit about the gig economy life. You've been living. You do affiliate marketing. You've got your little farm. I want to hear what your panic of the tax season is because I know that people who are W-2s, most of them either have to pay very little or they're getting something back most of the time. So I want to hear about you. Tell me about your gig economy.
So I used to work a real job, with W-2, get that taxes are taken out and I get it back at the end next year or whatever. Taxes were easy. I would file, get a check, boom, done. Then doing, the affiliate marketing and the side hustles here, side hustle there, I started making TikTok money, which was really good money. And, any of the brand deals, like with Amble and whatever. And I thought I was big ballin' because I had big full checks coming in. And then, you know, I had to do my taxes and I was like, oh crap. Uh
Yeah.
that I'm gonna have to pay or find a lot of freaking deductions, which that opened up a whole new world for me to have to figure out because that can be some sketchy stuff too, man.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that change from the W-2 to 1099 was huge. And I hate to say this, my ex-husband, regular W-2 job, he paid a crap load extra in taxes to cover my 1099 job, and it
Mhm.
still worked out pretty easy. So this year I'm like, "Oh, yeah, okay, panic mode has set in because I didn't expect certain things, but we're supposed to set money aside for our taxes if you're not paying them quarterly." I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, we will get to some of that. But really what we're talking about here now is we're talking about the fact that our economy is changing so much that you're not the only person doing this,
Mhm,
right? Like we have fewer and fewer people who are getting the bulk of their income from a straight W-2. And we want those people to know what to do, right?
mhm,
And we'll continue to talk about that. But we also need to really acknowledge the fact that if you are doing this side hustle work, this Ubers, Instacart, you're selling stuff on Etsy, you're an affiliate, you're doing anything like this, getting money, this is a whole new world from a taxable standpoint. I think my question for you is, what's the specific fear when you open your 1099? It's different when people get their W-2s because then they get to run to TurboTax or they get to run to H&R Block or they get to run to their local tax person and they get to figure out how much they get to get back, right? Because W-2 by definition is pulling out um, you know, federal taxes and state taxes and FICA and all of these things that a lot of people don't even know what they mean, but your employer is taking them out for you. So tell me what it's like when you open your 1099s. It's not the same as opening a W-2.
no, it's not. I have a 1099 from, TikTok, one from an affiliate network, one from a random brand deal, and I've got a shoebox full of receipts and things online, and this it feels like when I make this next step, the IRS is gonna come take my house or everything I own because it's it's scary if you don't know. The first year this is probably gonna be the first year I owe instead of getting a refund, and
Really?
looking
Really?
yeah, looking
I'm a little
because
surprised at that because I know last year you did pretty well with your affiliate stuff, but now that you're saying that your husband withheld a little bit more taxes while you guys were married, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of
Mhm,
sense, actually. And
and
I think a lot of people who are listening are probably living this life as well with somebody trying to do some side hustles and making some 1099 income. Very interesting.
it's so much when I started filling things out and I got scared looking at the numbers because I thought, "Oh my god, how am I gonna do this? I'm already really tight anyway." I didn't save 30% of my income all year, and it was dramatically less last year than it was 2 years ago, but I still I still have everything I thought I was gonna have at the end of the year. It's scary not knowing what's gonna happen, and those numbers looking back at me, it's a heck of a lot different than a W-2.
A 1099 is a whole lot different than a W-2. And I guess, who teaches you what to do with these things? Like, who has taught you, Kristen, like, what to do with the money or where to put it or how to figure out what your deductions are? Or, I mean, who's taught you how to do that?
Google?
Yeah. I
You?
mean, you Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the blind leading the blind sometimes. Let's be honest about that. And the reality here is that it's really hard to learn these things. And if you don't have somebody in your life who knows exactly how this should be done and who's able to sit down with you before you even get it started, right? A lot of people start these side businesses and these gig economy things and they're 6, 8 months into it and didn't even realize it was going to be a thing and now they've got a big problem because they've not been documenting anything. They haven't been, cataloging their income or their expenses. I mean, it's not easy to catalog income and expenses. It seems like it's easy. It feels like it should be easy, but I know it's not.
Listen, I had a business, I had my business years ago, and I had to do it all then too, and I still am not good at this. But, here's the thing, look at you, Adrian, and I'm assuming you have all of this dialed in. You are a lawyer, you have an LLC, and you've probably filed all of your quarterlies right when you're supposed to and done all the things, right?
Well, I actually no. And as we were, getting ready to do this episode, I was very, very honest about my own life here. And I think that's why it's important that we're doing this episode. If I can mess things up, it's obvious. I think obviously this is something that really anybody can mess up. So I want to give a little bit of a backstory. This was my first full year earning money entirely on my own. No W-2, no partners, no in-house accountants handling everything. So my whole adult life was as a partner in a firm, and I was a business owner, but that wasn't like we all had different jobs, right? My job, I wasn't the business attorney, I wasn't the tax person. We had the people here who did that. And so we actually paid ourselves on W-2s. So all the taxes were always taken out. Didn't know a lot of things. So 2024, I had only been on my own for 6 months. I had been working for the first 6 months. I plowed all my profits in my business back into my business. So I really didn't I didn't make any profit. I didn't trigger anything. I didn't even owe any money in April last year. And I thought it was nice and easy. And then I really got lulled into a false sense of security because I did not know about the $1,000 rule.
Wait, what's the $1,000 rule?
You're not familiar with the $1,000 rule
No, I
either?
don't. No.
Well, see, here's you and I, right? Seemingly knowledgeable financial people who have a freaking podcast where we talk about finances and things that people need to understand. You and I are both sitting here, and neither one of us knew about the $1,000 rule, and it's actually pretty damn important. So I'm finding out the hard way that the IRS's position is that if you expect to owe more than $1,000 in taxes when you file, then you are required to file your taxes quarterly. And I'm here to tell you, Kristen, that if you have to pay more than $1,000 this year, then you too are going to find out about something called an underpayment penalty. I'm learning about that now. You see, I thought quarterlies were for big businesses, right? Like I thought that if you're $1 million business, you're filing quarterlies. And quarterlies
Right?
mean every 3 months you write a check to the IRS saying, here's what I've earned in the last 3 months. This is what I think I should have paid in taxes. I didn't do it because I'm on my own, so I'll pay them. So you pay them every quarter. I did not do that. I I did not do that at all. And I do owe more than $1,000. I'm working on that as well. I mean, that's a whole different thing to figure out how to owe as little as humanly possible. But I now know that I've missed payments in April, June, September, and by the time January came, I mean, I knew it, but at that point, what's the point? I'm already getting penalized, so I figured why bother accelerating my anxiety at this point. I don't just have a tax bill, but I'm gonna have an underpayment penalty. I see you panicking. First off, it brings me joy to know that you really do come to these podcasts without looking at every single note that I give you, but I love this because I kind of figured you'd be a little surprised to hear that I screwed this up myself.
Well, here's the thing. I thought you had this under control. You're a lawyer for God's sake. And don't you have like a CPA slapping your hand so you know it's not too late?
Yeah, everybody should have a CPA to slap their hand and tell them what the hell to do. I pay a lot of money for a really great CPA. It is one of my monthly expenses that I'm overwhelmed with. And my CPA, this is such basic information that as God is my witness, my poor CPA just assumed that I knew this. And when I was like, wait, what? And she's like, wait, what? And I was like, wait, what? And she's like, wait. What?
Listen,
So I just barreled through 2025 without paying any quarterly taxes at all, and I'm doing all my numbers, and let's just it's pretty clear the IRS would have expected me to do that, and so I'm learning. I'm learning.
I'm speechless, my friend. Like I can't afford a CPA. I'm literally shitting bricks right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to file my taxes, man. Oh man, this is terrible. I don't like this episode anymore.
Yeah. So, a couple of things that, I want to make sure everybody understands, and that is you do have to be keeping an eye on this stuff. I'm horrible, Kristen. Like, the reason I went out and hired a CPA, and I pay a lot of money for this, I do not make enough money to warrant this CPA, to be honest, in my mind. But I'm just so messy that I know that I needed somebody like this. But Kristen, like, there are so many ways you can make this easier for yourself, right? You have one credit card that you use for your business and just put all your stuff on. Do you think I do that? No, I don't.
No.
And I know you probably don't either. And that's really why we're doing this episode, is because it is just so easy to take one foot off of the path in January while you're running your business and just get so far off of the trail that you are lost. And I think that happens to a lot of people. And if it can happen to somebody like me, it can happen to you, it can happen to really anybody. That's how complicated this system really is, you know?
And we're both messy. I mean, honestly, I can already think in January we've already screwed up. For this next tax year in 2026,
We've
whatever.
established that you and I are both a mess. Whether you're a
Mhm.
farmer or a lawyer, I mean, that's why we do this podcast together, because we are more similar than we are different, despite the fact that we have very different, socioeconomic categories that we're operating in. If, if somebody is, if somebody's struggling who's trying to make money off of TikTok is falling into the same trap that the lawyer with 30 years of experience is falling into, then I think it's worth saying, hey, listen, you're not screwing up because you're stupid. This stuff is really complicated. So let's talk about how to dig our way out of this problem, right? What happens
Right.
if you do get a tax bill and you just can't pay it?
Or what if you get a tax refund and you're drowning in debt?
Nobody really tells you the difference between being an employee and a business. Like, nobody explains that to you. And the tragedy I see is exactly what you said earlier. You hustle all year to make extra money. You spend the money along the way to survive because you need stuff. And then tax season comes, you owe some money, you take your husband's W-2 and you use it to pay your 1099 tax bill. And that's a bit of a trap. So you fell into it, the not knowing the quarterlies. I fell into that. We work all year to break even and then to pay into it. That's what we call the side hustle trap, right? And
Right.
so we got to all be aware of the side hustle trap.
All right. So let's say you do get a refund, right? Let's say you get that golden ticket of $4,000. There's obviously pressure to spend it. There are sales everywhere, tax refund sales, You
Right.
gotta pay your bills. You wanna go to Disney. You wanna fix the car.
Right? I mean,
What
there's
do we do?
I am fascinated around tax refund time whenever I'm talking to new clients, because the moment you get your W-2s for those people who are getting tax refunds, the moment you get your W-2 and you run over and calculate what you're gonna get, moment you know the number, you start spending it in your mind. I mean, that's right? Doesn't everybody do that? I do that. I mean,
Yeah.
anytime you know a number coming, you just start to spend it in your mind. Fair?
Fair, absolutely
Yeah.
fair, because I did do numbers before I started adding things or, knowing the correct numbers, and I was like, "Ooh, if I were to get this refund, I can pay for this vacation." So it's
Mhm.
already paid for in my head.
Yep.
Not
Yep.
anymore.
Yep. But, the tax refund's only gonna go so far. I mean, how much are you gonna get? Yeah, 2,000, 4,000, 6, 8. I mean, I've seen some people get 10, 12,000, but those people have a lot of kids. I mean, you gotta have kids, right? And
Mhm.
so you have needs. And what do you do? Do you take them to Disney? Do you buy them clothes? Do you pay off debt? Do you fix the car? It's a finite amount of money, and we put a lot of hope and anticipation and expectation in this moment if you're getting money back. I think one of the things is people do try to be somewhat responsible most of the time, right? People, who come to the table who have like 30 grand in credit card debt. They are trying to figure out what to do. Most people are managing debt with their tax refund. I think that's important to stay here. So they'll take some of their tax refund, pay off one credit card, maybe feel good for a day, for a month, but then the interest comes back, and you can blow 4 or 5 grand just keeping all your problems away from you for another couple of months. But by the time after Easter's over and we're barreling into Memorial Day, everybody's poor again and starting to rack up the debt again, right? And the debt's
Absolutely.
becoming worse, right?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
I can attest to that for years, taking that refund, paying off certain debts, and then still being screwed. Or the year that I took our tax return, paid off a bunch of debt, and we bought a house because I
Yeah.
got our credit to where it needed to be, and then it was like, "Oh, we still are poor. Shit."
Yeah. That's it. We're throwing a cup of water on a house fire, right? Like that's how you have to think about it. If you're using your tax refund to try to keep your creditors, the people you owe money, away from you, then you got to think about how to put the fire out. And most people cannot put a fire out with the tax refund that they've got. And then on the flip side, of course, are those of us who are struggling to figure out how the hell to even calculate how much we owe, right? I'm going to give you advice that sounds crazy, but if you are getting a tax refund, I think it's important to understand that one of the best things you can do, me, I'm a bankruptcy lawyer, is use your tax refund to pay for a bankruptcy lawyer. That's why people like me are so popular right now. You seen some movement on your social medias right now about this topic?
Mhm. Yep, I
Yeah.
actually made a video a few days ago saying, "Don't spend your tax refund, call a bankruptcy attorney." Oh boy, did I light a fire under a bunch of people. Why would I take my, Disney money and pay a bankruptcy attorney and say I'm broke? Why would I do something like that? I could have fun for a couple days and deal with the debt when I come back.
The cost of a bankruptcy nationwide is gonna be somewhere right around 2 to 20 about $2,500 nationwide. And so, for example, this past week, I talked to multiple people. I talked to a lady on Friday that had $52,000 in debt and credit cards and medical bills. Throughout the entire week, my lowest amount was 20,000. My highest amount was over 100,000. I think I talked to like 8 or 10 people last week. And the price is the same for every single one of them. So if you could pay $2,500 to get rid of $52,000 in credit cards and medical bills, Like, that's the best way you could possibly spend your tax refund. There's just no discussion. Disney lasts for 4 days, but a fresh start really lasts for the rest of your life. So, I think it's important to use this time, tax refund time or tax time, refund time for those of you who are getting it. It's really important that you understand what you can do with it and how to maximize it. But for those of you who are in this gig economy, I do think we need to talk a little bit more about what the hell you're doing in there. Some things that I think that you should know about. How would that have hit a couple years ago if you and I hadn't if you hadn't filed bankruptcy and you were struggling, but you were getting a tax refund and you had wanted to take your kids to Disney? Like, how would you have processed that in your mind?
After listening for so long now, I know that bankruptcy is the best return of investment ever. So using $2,500 to pay for a bankruptcy attorney to get rid of 25, 30, 50, $100,000 in debt is the smartest way to use the tax refund. And then guess what? You can go to Disney next year and you don't have all that debt waiting for you when you get back. It feels better to going on a trip not knowing or knowing that you are not dodging the bill collectors to do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm a bankruptcy lawyer, so I lean in very heavily in this lane. This is one of the busiest times for bankruptcy lawyers. Anytime we're talking about taxes, it would be absolutely insane not to analyze what you can do or to understand what you can do to maximize it. I think at the end of the day, if you are getting that golden ticket tax refund, you have an obligation to use it the best possible way that your family can use it. And some ways are better than others, and starting with your debt is number one, the most important thing I think that we can deal with. So,
I agree. And realistically, let me just say, I know as a broke person that there's a lot of nuance in this conversation because you see it as the attorney. Yes, you spend $2,500 to get rid of all this debt. I see I have a $4,000 tax refund. I take $2,500, I pay a bankruptcy attorney, but I only have $1,500 to pay my rent, pay my car payment, pay my utility bills, and make sure the kids have clothes. I panic because I could use that $4,000 and pay 2 months of rent and those, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I know the struggle of trying to figure that out. And I still will say 100 times over, paying the bankruptcy attorney so that when next month comes and you don't have all of the debt and everybody calling, knocking down the door for your $3,000 a month that you get to pay all your bills, it makes life a lot easier. It lets you breathe and actually be able to live. The whole economic system relies on us being financially illiterate. It makes people treat a tax refund like a bonus every single year. And then credit card becomes that moral obligation.
It really does, and it's delayed gratification. It's called adulting. And it's really important that we see the big picture here, right? It's short-term pain for long-term gain. If you have $52,000 in credit cards and medical bills, like my lady on that I talked to on Friday, and you're getting $3,000 back in your tax refund, of course, I know you could use that $3,000 many, 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 many ways. But at the end of the day, you still have $52,000 in credit cards and medical bills, and no, some of them she was even paying minimum payments on. So filing bankruptcy means no more minimum payments ever in the future on those. Like they're gone. The debt is gone. You don't have to go work and earn more money just to pay that. Right. So if you were working overtime to try to pay that, you get to keep working overtime. You get to keep that money for yourself. You could start a savings account. You could probably save $4,000 to go to Disney in less than 6 months. But you have to have that more longer term version. It's short term sacrifice for a longer view for the long game. And it's not that long, right? A $4,000 tax refund is only going to make you feel safe for a couple of months if you're really struggling. And if you're really struggling, that's the person who should be considering this option. I so agree with you, and I know that feeling. I've been in that. I mean, there have been times I was so poor in the early days that that tax refund, I lived for it. It's how I got caught on my rent. It's how I
Mhm,
took my dog to the vet once a year because I couldn't afford it any other time. And I
mhm.
get it. But at the same time, it's a lot easier to take my dog to the vet if I'm not paying credit cards and stuff and I can put a little money aside every month for the dog vet bills, to budget for that. Let's stop here for a moment and let's pivot. What do we do now? Okay. Let's talk about those people who do get tax refunds, who are working off of W 2s. Let's talk about how we can make sure that they are doing everything they should in order to help themselves moving forward. Because getting a tax refund isn't the flex to begin with, right? It's not a
Mm-mm.
flex to begin with to get one. We started this podcast out by talking about what a W 2 is and why you get a tax refund. So, why should we change what we're doing here?
Because you're really just giving the government an interest-free loan,
Yeah.
and you can change your deductions on your W-2s to keep more in your pocket now when you actually need the money instead of waiting for that big chunk. I know we're conditioned to think, "Oh, this big check in the middle of February, March, it's gonna save us," but if you have the money all year long, you're not gonna need that big check.
In theory,
Well,
that
yeah.
is true. And I will say that that's what everybody says that you should do. Right?
Mhm,
And it's kinda how I led you down this path as well. There's also a flip side here, and that is that people, they're trying to make that balance, right? Trying to get back just as much just enough, and then they go too far and they end up owing, right?
mhm.
Um, I have to say that most financial people are gonna tell you to reduce your withholdings, take more in every month, and that way you've got a little bit more and you budget off of that. Um, I personally believe that I don't think that all that type of financial advice is a one size fits all. I don't think everybody should be owning a house. I don't think that everybody should try to get all of their tax money every single month and owe nothing and get nothing because I do think that that can put people behind as well. I think if you're disciplined and you can budget and you do understand why paying the government means that they're holding on to it. And you have the wherewithal to be able to be disciplined enough to handle it, then I think that you should increase your withholdings so that you can get more money throughout the year. But I also think that it's important to be honest and say, we are giving the government an interest free loan, but would we have squandered it along the way? And is this a forced interest free savings program for you? If it is, don't let it get out of control. You don't want a $10,000 refund. That's just crazy. You could have almost $1,000 more in your paycheck all year long, right? A month, right? A thousand, almost about
Right,
$800 more a month. That's how that equals out to. So it's one thing to get a $3,000 tax refund. It's another thing to get a $10,000 tax refund. It means that you're paying the government way more than they should. But I see so many people who are irresponsible like me, and by irresponsible I mean normal, right? We don't have the discipline to do everything right every single day with the numbers and with the money. And those people, I think it's okay to say, I am somebody that needs little bit of a guardrail, and I'm gonna get a little bit of a tax refund at the end of the year so that I don't have to worry about paying. I think that's okay too, and I don't think a
yeah.
lot of financial people would tell you that. Are you surprised to hear
Yeah,
me say
I
that?
no, I mean, I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that, but not, after thinking about it, no, because it is smarter to balance it out. Balancing is better than over or under, I guess.
Right.
But
Right.
I mean, those big
But
tax
if you're gonna
refunds are just really nice.
err on the side of not having to write a check because you probably
Right.
won't have it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which really leads us over into the side hustle convo. Now we're flipping over from the W-2 people who are getting theirs, right? Well, let's flip over to the side hustle. What should we be doing? Right? I know a few more answers to this now. I do
So
know some of the things.
I also know, but did not follow what I should have done. If you get
Most people
a,
don't.
yeah,
Most people
no,
don't.
if you make money doing a side hustle, TikTok, brand deals, whatever, open a separate savings account. Every time a deposit hits, put 30% of what you are given into that account and don't touch it. Pretend it doesn't exist.
Okay, I'm gonna one up you. Every 3 months, send it to the IRS. That's called quarterlies.
Oh, I have a question. Off
Mhm.
Not off topic, but question because I'm curious.
Mm,
I know when I do my taxes, I'm going to do deductions and all of that stuff. Do you do deductions quarterly
yeah.
too?
Well,
Huh.
I will be. I mean, it's only January. I'm just now starting. I've just learned I have got a ledger for January going. Amen. So yeah, it's the $1,000 rule is if you are going to owe $1,000 or more in taxes, right? So if you go 3 months, January, February, March, all right? At the end of March, you're supposed to analyze all your stuff, take all the income you've brought in, subtract out all of your expenses, your legitimate expenses, which is a whole nother topic right there. Subtract out your expenses, and then what's left is your taxable income. Okay. So if I make $10,000 from a brand deal and I had to pay my accountant and I had to, you know, pay for my software and I had to pay for this. If my net income is $4,000, I need to put aside 30% of 4,000 if I've got the expenses. And that's a whole nother ball of wax. That is why I hired my CPA, because my CPA does understand affiliate and influencer type of stuff. She's giving me good advice in terms of what I can, what are legitimate expenses. So the way you're looking, Kristen, I'm definitely not seeing that you've put aside at 30% in an account anywhere.
No. And I did the math very quickly on my calculator, and eh, I don't like this job anymore.
Yeah,
I don't like this
yeah,
anymore.
yes,
Oh
yes.
man.
You can see why they want you to do quarterly so you don't fall behind, so you don't end up a year later going, "Oh my god, how am I gonna write this check?"
Yeah, yeah. I really would wish I would have done this last year. I really wish I would have.
Louder for the
Many
people
reasons.
in back, Kristen. Louder for me. And I coulda used this advice last year.
Adrian, how many times do we give ourselves advice that we should have followed and did not? All the time,
Well,
right?
yeah, that's
This
like
one is a
all the
biggie.
time.
All the time. This one's a biggie. I really wish I would have done this last year, and I might do it this year.
Well, here is the good news. Here's the good news. It's barely even February, and it's not hard to get into this and to get caught up and to start a process. I have an accountant. I have help in this area, but even I'm still messy. So I'm spending a lot of time trying to make sure that everything that I think applies to my business is on a business credit card, so I don't have to go find the receipts. It's not intermingling with my own personal stuff. That's what I'm finding to be the problem. I'm messy. I'm lazy. I put things off and I don't sit down and do the things I'm supposed to do in the moment. But I am starting to now, starting to find processes that work for me. And it's a pen and paper. It's not even fancy stuff like
That
Excel.
That's too much work for me. I'll just go get a real job.
There you
I'll
go.
just go get
Well,
a
there
W
you
2 job.
go. I like that. I like that. Well, let's help our followers figure out what to do with their refund. If you do not have debt, congratulations. If you don't have debt, feel free to take your kids to Disney. Go do all of the things. But if you do have debt, please think about it. And if you are entering into this gig economy, please, please listen to Kristen and I, because we have some dire, dire warnings for you that I'm not even sure we're gonna listen to, but we urge you all to listen to our dire warnings.
I do have a question, and this is a
Yes.
hypothetical asking for a friend. Okay.
Okay, I love these kind of questions.
Let's say you're getting a $3,000 refund
Okay.
and you have debt, but you also just filed bankruptcy a couple years ago and you can't file for another six. What do you do then? You just go to Disney and say, fuck it?
Well, first off, I'd like you to talk to my friend who is a financial journalist who's doing a story on that. Secondly, I think it's not 6 years. If you filed a Chapter 7 bankruptcy 2 years ago, what we really wanna do is get you 2 more years out. If we can just find a way to get you out 2 years, then we can put you into a Chapter 13 paying a really small amount, like maybe $125 a month or something like that. But in the
My
meantime
friend, not me.
yes. Yeah, I'm talking about your friend, obviously. So your friend is going to want to figure out the best way that they can to get, to make the minimum payments and to let it ride as long as humanly possible. And, we're going to file a chapter 13 in 2 years, I guess, for that friend of yours. But it's
I
a tough place to be right now. It is I mean,
Mhm.
I do wanna say it's a tough place to be. This is a common problem. Bankruptcy doesn't solve everything, and especially, if that friend has tax liability now or, if that friend, got divorced and doesn't have somebody, a W-2 employee and W-2 guy who's, these things change and we have to figure it out. And the answer is you're gonna have to just do your friend will have to do everything they can to get to the 4-year mark.
Yep. Yep. I knew the
That's
answer,
what we're
but
gonna do with that friend of yours.
I know
You
there's
have them
other
call me.
people in yeah, I know there's other people in my friend's position that may have needed to hear that as well, because
Absolutely.
it's a thing. It's not always your fault. Life happens.
No, well,
But
I wanna
Google
be clear, it's almost never your fault. I mean, I
right.
just wanna make sure everybody understands that is almost never your fault. Listen, we all make mistakes. Like, my tax problem is my fault. I didn't know, right? And I'm not the only person that didn't know. And
Uh-huh.
so, you didn't know. And consequently, just because somebody else knows doesn't mean that we're stupid because we don't know, and we have to go out and figure it out. We're all learning. Every single one of us is falling on our face every day. I'm honest about it. You're really honest about it. And that's why I like doing this podcast with you because, we get an opportunity to really show people the reality of both of our lives. It's mine's not perfect and yours isn't, yours isn't perfect. Ours are different, but we have similar problems. We do have
Mhm.
similar problems
Just
at times.
with bigger tax bills or
Yeah. I do wanna give a couple of disclaimers for this episode. This is not legal advice. We are just really offering obviously, you don't wanna take tax advice from me. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm still learning myself. So this is just our own experiences, our own information here. I don't wanna convey anybody that I'm giving them legal advice about their taxes or anything like that because that's not my bag, right? I do think that for if you're a W-2 employee, you need to think more about how you're getting a tax refund, why you're getting it, and how you're going to use it to help you and your family, even in next year. Let's say you're smart and you listen to me and you file bankruptcy and get rid of your debt. What are you going to do with that tax refund that you're accumulating for next year? Because next year you won't have to catch up on debt with it. Right? Like, can that start to be your vacation fund? Can you, start to really plan amazing things for your family? You get to start to open up opportunities when you're willing to stop and plan ahead a little bit. And people like me, ADHD, I don't like to plan stuff too far in advance, but if we're willing to do it, right, benefit from it.
right. Exactly. Don't let the refund baller on Instagram make you feel bad. Don't follow other people's leads unless it's smart, and do what's right for your family's future and not just the weekend or the next couple weeks after you get that refund. Do
Yeah,
what's
your
right for your
refund is
family.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, your refund is your money. Use it to buy your way out of the trap if you can. And don't sign anything until you read the fine print.
Yep, and watch where you step.
There you go. And if you get a check from anyone, take 30% of it and put it in a savings account.
Unless it's your grandma's Christmas money. If your
Oh,
grandma
well,
sends
then
you
you
Christmas money still.
Do you know my mother gave me $100 check for Christmas and I still haven't cashed it? I just found it in my wallet and I'm gonna go cash it and I think I'm just gonna go do something fun with it. I'm just gonna
That'd be a
go do
good
something fun
idea.
with it.
My mom gave me
That's a
$50 for Christmas, and I think I paid the guy to plow my driveway.
that's a good one.
That's what I
That's a
think I
good
did
one.
with it.
Well, since
Yeah.
I'm going to probably be using my mother's $100 a Christmas check to me, I'll just be putting it towards my penalties on my
Yeah.
IRS taxes.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Being an adult
Well,
is not always fun.
it is not. It is not. This is let me say, being an adult is not fun in January and February, I've concluded. It's not
Mhm.
fun, but
Mhm.
has to be done. We can do it. We're learning a lot, and you know what? We're gonna be a lot smarter next year at this time, Kristen. I am not gonna be writing the check that I'm writing this year. I am learning from the error of my ways.
Mhm. Yep.
On
Me too. Sure. Yep.
on that note, we're gonna shut this one down, and we will see you guys next week. We hope you feel a little smarter and a little less alone than you did just 40 minutes ago.
If you learned something, leave us a review or share this with a friend who needs the truth.
Don't sign anything until you read the fine print.
And watch where you stop. See you next week.